Before I start today's show, I just want to give a shout out to the brother, the Lewis Narrative. I went onto his Etsy shop and bought this shirt right here, and it is the shirt that I'm wearing in this episode. Be sure to stop by. I'll have his link down in the description. Show him some love. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Milt's Coaching Corner. I wanted to make sure I dropped on here today to let you guys know that I appreciate every last one of you who has gone into the last episode and shown it love. Whether you have listened on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, every podcast platform that I am on, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Pandora. I just want to thank you guys so much for allowing me to grace your ears with, well, the last one was just the subject of me. But this one, it comes from my comment section. As I told you guys that I wanted to create a show that replied to people in the comment section. The reason I decided to do this is because most of the time when a content creator or somebody who's a creative, quote unquote, they depend on a lot of things within their own mind. But one of the things you have to realize is that you serve the people, that you're there for entertainment. So what better way to entertain people by entertaining them with the thoughts that they maybe want to get on here and speak on, but they would rather hear you talk about it. So you get on here and you run your mouth and you tell them not only the truth, but you tell them based upon the research that you've done, the unadulterated truth. That's what my podcast is about. The unadulterated truth. I don't mince words, and I definitely don't skip over subjects in order to make others comfortable, even myself. So let's jump to it. Today's episode is on spiritual ties. Now, I know a lot of people are into spirituality. As you guys know, some of you know, some of you do not. Me, myself, I'm a Christian man. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that God is the Savior. I believe that Jesus Christ came and died for our sins. But one thing I do not do to other people is try to make them feel as if they must believe in what I believe in. I speak on it just like the next man. You choose whatever you want to do in this life. And then, hey, we just go from there. There's only one way we're going to find out if we're right. And that's when we perish. Now, to jump into what spiritual ties are, they're exactly what they sound like. When your spirit is tied to something, someone, and it can even be tied to your family, which is still someone. But you guys get where I'm going, right? So first, let's jump into your spirit ties being tied to something. Now, most people, if you look on social media, if you look on YouTube, if you look on Google, and you will see that there's most people out here. You know what, guys? I'm not going to lie to you. I'm looking at my watch to make sure I'm in frame. Check this out, right? I think I'm cool now because I can watch myself on my watch as I do whatever I'm doing. So either way, so let's talk about the fact of being tied to someone. The beautiful part about your spirit is that it knows when it has something with it that is not of you. Now, a lot of people would say it's not of your higher vibration. A lot of people would like to say that it's not of your greater self or your higher self. I would say that it is not of what God has put inside of you. But if you listen to all those things I just mentioned, you will realize that they practically are the same thing. Now, the beautiful part about it all is that when you attach yourself to many things, you find yourself in a position where you don't always know exactly how you got to where you are. You don't know why you became unmotivated. You don't know how this became your addiction. You don't understand what this is that's pulling at you. But I'm here to tell you, the very things that are pulling at you are the very things that you are attached to. So it begs to tell you, attach yourself to something different. Make yourself available to those things that are positive, those things that are good for you, because the very things that you decide to attach yourself to are the very things that are either going to be a part of your freedom or a part of your demise. Now, some people may say, Milt, there's a such thing as a gray area. Well, in the form of spirituality and spiritual ties, there is not. And the reason I say that is because you're either going to have something that is good for you or bad for you. The things that you can be tied to are material things. Social media. You can be tied to your cell phone. The very thing or device that you may be watching me on at this very moment or listening to me on at this very moment, attached to your car. Anything that is carnal, anything that is of man, anything that is not of your true spiritual self. Now, I'm not one of those people, I'm going to jump on here and just fill your head up with a bunch of nothing. I'm going to jump straight to the point. The fact is, the reason why you're tied to those things is because you don't find the value within yourself to be tied to yourself. You don't find the value in who you are. You don't find the value in what you have to offer. So guess what ends up happening to you? Now you only find value when it's attached to something else. That's a spiritual tie. Well, how do I? Guess what? Let's get through the other parts first before we jump into how do you become attached to yourself spiritually. Now, the one that we've all been waiting for, being tied to someone. Now, I could talk about family in this. You know what I will? I'm going to go off script a little bit here and switch it up. Hey, I wrote it. So let's go off script and just realize that I'm talking about family now. When you are spiritually tied to your family, that is things that you can help or not help. When I say being tied to your family, I'm talking about things that had nothing to do with you that your forefathers and their forefathers did in order for that thing, whether it be spiritual things or whether it be a spiritual personality, whether it be a spiritual mentality that has now tied itself to your family, your lineage, your bloodline, and it follows you no matter what you do. Now, one of the main ways to break that is to find out where the root of that started. A lot of times within our community, no matter what community we're a part of, a lot of times we can trace back to where it all went wrong. Or we can see within a certain family member where they are going wrong and realize that they are not necessarily operating in a pattern of somebody who is cognitive, but more so operating in a pattern of somebody who is being influenced. That is where you learn the difference between being cognitive or aware of what you're doing and you're being influenced. Now, some people can't tell the difference between the two. Why? Because this is a very vast subject that is very kind of, it's not going to say it's, I'm going to be honest. It is very hard to delve into every single aspect of this without you guys thinking that I'm trying to either curtail your thought process or curtail you to think certain ways that I do. I'm only coming to you guys to be totally frank. I'm coming to you guys very much so open and honest. And the reason I'm doing that without the influence of, my Christian thoughts, if you will, is because I realize in order to meet people, you have to meet them where they are. I can't meet you where I am. Now, I can give you personal stories about me. I'll just tell you the truth. So whenever I was in high school, right, the men in my family had this thing where they always got a girl pregnant in high school. Always. And me thinking that, I got my life under control. Christ is the head of my life and I love the Lord, right? I got a girl pregnant in high school. Needless to say, me and that girl decided to go ahead and have an abortion. Now, I know, I might have some people who are anti-Bible and say, well, you are wrong. You're right. You're right. I am wrong for that. I had an abortion. But I'm not ashamed to tell you guys that I did it. The reason I'm not ashamed of it is because spiritually, what I did, what I constantly do, is I pray over that. Pray over the root of that. What leads to that is a man's constant need or ties to women. He needs to have it. He's over-sexual. Right? I know some things I'm talking about are not necessarily agreeable. But the truth is, when you're over-sexual or when you're over anything, it's not a good thing. Your spirit is all about balance. Your spirit is not about being over anything. Everything is where it should be. Now, I constantly pray because I have a son and I have a daughter. So I constantly pray over that in order to break that spiritual tie. Do I believe it's broken? No, because my son has not reached that time in his life. But I do have nephews and nieces that also reached that time in their life. And wouldn't you know it? Same things. So let's talk about this last part. Being tied to someone. Most of us are tied to people who we think we love. We're tied to people who we believe will be with us forever. And the truth is, anybody who has the influence over your mind, over your heart, over your spirit, over your well-being, is not good. Why? Because they're merely human. A human being should not have any power over your spiritual being. Understand what I'm saying to you. Human beings, me, as you see me in the flesh, my big old hand, as you see it, this should not have power over you. Now, sure, in a physical show of strength, I could overpower you. But spiritually, I should have no power over you. And if I do have that power over your mind, if I do have that influence to the point where I cause you to either A, doubt yourself, mistrust yourself, not love yourself, then our spirits tied together is not a good thing. You cannot force someone to fit your spirit. You cannot make someone be who you believe they can be in your life. The greatest thing that I had to learn about spiritual ties is that they can be broken. Most of the time we like to think that we can break spiritual ties from a person just by breaking up with them, playing love music, and maybe getting with somebody else. But the truth is, the only way we can really break with that person or break away from that person is to truly do everything in our power, our might, in our mind overall, to break away through prayer, through constant meditation on breaking away, and do everything to not allow that person back into our space, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Constantly pray and ask God, if that's what you believe, to break you away from everyone who you are tied to, who's hindering you from your victories, who's hindering you from your blessings. Because what ends up happening to you is that you end up in a place where that person was never supposed to be, but they helped take you there. You got what I'm saying? So to align yourself with your destiny means to align yourself with the people who are meant to be there with you. Everybody's not meant to go on the ride, but everybody who's not meant to be there, I promise you, will want to be there for the ride. And the biggest mistake a lot of us make out here is that we constantly tie ourselves to people. It doesn't matter the style of relationship, but we constantly tie ourselves to people who mean us no good. Now, they themselves may not be a mean person. They themselves may be a very nice person. But the truth is, their spirit is what you should be looking at. Their soul is what you should be looking at. Because that human being, that person, what you see, is a spiritual being having a human experience and not a human being having a spiritual experience. So we need to be cognizant of each and every person that is in our lives spiritually and the effect that they have on our lives spiritually. Now, I'm going to talk about this, and this one may be tough for a lot of us. This is the meat of this entire thing, and it is how to be spiritually tied to ourselves. Man, guys, Reality is I'm still learning to get there myself. Reality is each day for me is a new day for me to take that step forward in being more tied to Milton, understanding, loving, caring, and doing everything within my power and my might to make sure that I take care of me. Now, that's also understanding that other spirits I may come in contact with that I also may have to take care of too. We like to call that in Christianity helping another bear their cross. Biblically, it says to help each other bear each other's cross, but only for a little while. Why? Because biblically, God also says He knows how much we can bear, how much we can carry. So because of this, what ends up happening is a lot of us, because we don't know how much we can carry, we end up carrying people, spirits with us, sometimes for life. There's a lot of you out there who could be doing something totally different in your life, but you're still tied. You're still tied to something, someone. And the only thing that's going to break you free is if you do what we talked about. Sitting down, making sure that you do everything in your might, in your power, to break yourself free. Now, the beautiful part about all of this is you can do that. You have to decide and choose. You. If I have kids, if you have kids, I do have children, but if you have kids and I have kids, how do we continuously do for us when our kids also need us? What good are you to your kids if you are not even you? That doesn't mean you be mean to them, but you also teach them and train them up so that they may sustain a healthy life spiritually, mentally, and physically. A lot of us allow our children also to attach themselves to us in the sense of we begin to live vicariously through them, or allow our kids to take away from the very work we're supposed to be doing here on this earth. Because I'm going to tell you the truth. That's what it's really all about. What are you meant to do while you're here? Being spiritually tied to anything, family, or anyone is all a part of your destiny too. To work through those things, to see those things, and to be the one to break those things. Because any one of these things that I just mentioned could also be you. You could be the thing. You could be the family. And you could be the someone. So what are you doing in your life to make sure that you are not spiritually tied to things, family past, and someone? And what are you doing to make sure you're not those three things? Listen, I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time out to listen to my big old head talk. I've been talking ever since I was a kid. But I thank you guys for listening to me. Those of you who have made it to this point. Listen, I'm going to put in the description here on YouTube. If you're listening to me on any other podcast platform, make sure to go to my Anchor page that is normally linked into the description of the podcast, if you will. And here on YouTube, if you just go into the description there, you'll see every single thing that I'm on. You'll see every social that I have and everything. Even if you just go to my Anchor page, you'll see all my socials. Listen, I appreciate you guys. If you loved it, liked it, hit the like button. If you loved it, liked it, give me a review. It just helps me get out there a lot more. I'm not asking you guys for $1 million. I'm asking for you to just tap on the button. And if that's too much to ask for, I totally understand. If I did not do a good enough job, please be free to let me know. But most of all, let me know what you guys want to talk about. Peace, love, and chicken grease. I love you. God bless you. And here's to a wrap on Milt's Coaching Corner.